Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This is Doug Allen with C5 Insight, and what I want to do is give you a good walkthrough of the new library experience or new library UI that was released in Office 365 for all SharePoint libraries. So this was originally released out to first release tenants on June 7th of 2016, and around June 22nd the announcement was that it should be enabled by default for all libraries. And what we're talking about here is if we go into our 365 site, our SharePoint site, and we look at our document library, this is the standard library that we're used to seeing, and what you will see if you have SharePoint 2016 on-premise, or if you have the classic view of the library in SharePoint Online. SharePoint 2013 obviously will be a little bit different, but it's similar, but with some minor differences with the command bar here. So this standard experience then became this experience. So if you would ever go to your OneDrive in your Office 365, you had this experience, and you would notice that this was vastly different than this. And so their main goals with this new release was to really simplify and unify the different experiences, and then also give you more options here without having to go into the library settings or to modify a view or anything like that to be able to find the different settings or configuration that you're looking for. Now you can disable this or revert to classic, the classic library view on a per library basis, or it's also set at the SharePoint admin tenant level. And so if we go into our library settings, which we can do by clicking the gear and then library settings right here, and then what we do is we go under the advanced settings, and then at the very bottom there's a new option called list experience. And you can either inherit the experience from set by the tenant level, or you can force it to be the new or the classic experience. And when we go into the tenant level, so the 365 tenant administrator will go into the SharePoint Admin Center and then go under the settings area, and then a little down there's an option to say SharePoint lists and libraries experience. And then you have two options of either classic or the new experience. Now notice it says auto detect. So what happens is whenever this is turned on, the feature will look at all the different settings and features that you have turned on your library, and then determine based on those features whether or not it's going to, the new experience is going to support it. So if you still have, if this feature gets activated on some, it may not get activated for all. So just be aware of that. So like content type ordering was one previous example, or if you have other certain customizations. So just real quick, kind of brief overview of the new layout, which is vastly different than a standard document library, and kind of where things got shifted around. So one of the first big things to notice is that there is no ribbon button. All the ribbon completely went away, and what you have instead is this quick action bar, this quick command bar here, where you have your, a few of the same options at current. So you can create new documents, new folders, stuff like that, upload files, sync it down using the OneDrive for Business client, quick edit, and then you can alert me. The other thing that you'll notice is that we have our top navigation up here above the name of the site, and then you can follow this library as well if you're using the social features. But then notice our views that were used to be over here are gone. They moved to the right side here. So this drop down has a few different options. We can view the list or library in a more in like a thumbnail view, which is what they call tiles. It gives you a more graphical representation of the different files in your library. Or you can also get to your Explorer view from right here as well. All of your different views that you have configured right now, I've only got one, all documents, but those will be listed here. And you have two new options to save view or manage views. So what we can do is we can very easily now do various things with the display of this library to be able to change things up. So for example, I can just click on our document type column and I can group by. So notice I didn't go into the view settings or anything crazy like that. just right here you can do that. Note, and now notice they're groups. They're grouped, and even if I change to the tiles view, that grouping is still maintained. So then I can also filter. So I can say filter by this, and I can pick my column that I want to filter on. Things like that. You can still sort, you know, from A, you can sort ascending, descending, stuff like that. You can still do that. The other huge cool thing that you can do now is you can resize columns. I don't know how many times I've been asked by people to say that they want to expand the width of a certain column. Well, you kind of had to do all this kind of code hackery to, you know, try to do it. It just wasn't easy at all. So you can just hover over one of your columns, like let's say you want to drag the file name out, and we can just get our control, drag it out, and then we can expand the width of our column there. And pretty much any column we want, we can do that. So can't get easier. We can create columns as well. So if we scroll all the way to the right, then we can have this little plus sign, and we can create new columns. Now previously you would only see this if you were in quick edit mode, either in 13 or in 2016, but they just made it by default where you can do that. Now notice you also have this option to show or hide columns, which is nice. So right here we can get our list of columns. We can say uncheck modified and show the created column as well. Click apply, and then those settings are automatically taking effect. So like I say, it's, you know, done things to make it much, you know, easier to not have to go into the library settings or the view settings to change things. So we still have our 3 dots, so we can go to our 3 dots here and get our contextual settings to go to workflow. We can rename a file, get version history, go to details, go to properties, edit properties, stuff like that. We can still do all those check in, check out, do all those normal types of things, but we have a few new options here that we can do. One of the big ones is that we can actually pin to top. So we can take a file, we can pin this to the top. So this document will be top and foremost visible. So if you wanted to put like a policy document or a guidance document, or, you know, some kind of technical requirements or functional requirements document for a project or something like that on your some kind of governance document you wanted people to be able to see, you can do that. And you can do multiple as well. So we can either highlight it from the 3 dots on the document or from the quick action bar, pin to top. So we can kind of put, you know, the top main documents that we want to force users to definitely see and look at. Another big difference is that you now have the ability to copy and move files around very easily. So before, with the content and structure tool, you could move files around and copy files or sites, but you really couldn't do anything with libraries or folders or anything. But with that, we definitely can now. So we can highlight 2 files. Now notice we have move and copy. So we can say copy to, we can pick a folder. Say we want to put them in our subfolder here. We can just say copy, done. So we go into so they're copied, that's done. So we can go into our folder 1, go down to folder 2, and then here are our files. And then if you wanted to then move those back up the directory tree, then you could do that and pick them back on the root and say move. And it says they weren't moved probably because they already exist, and so you get the option to say replace. So now that's done, we go back to our root, and our documents are where they used to be, and all the metadata goes with them. So notice the find a file, that little search box, the filter box is no longer here. Where that got moved is over here on the left on this big search panel. So let's just say, for example, we just type sales, then we get a little drop down suggestions of everything that's either got properties of sales or the word sales on their properties or within the document. And then if we want to actually filter the whole library with those results, then we can say see more. And within our custom changes, within our custom grouping, then all that still takes effect. So what browser support is going to be is going to support the new this new library experience. So all browsers that are IE 10 or higher, and then all your Chrome, Safari, Firefox are going to support this new browser experience. So let's take a quick look at the quick action bar. So one of the first things that you'll notice is that there's a smaller subset of options. They will be releasing new options over the coming months and year, I'm sure, to bring the feature parity up a good bit. But for now, if you have nothing selected, you can create new content based on some content types. Big thing that you can do now is link. So you can actually bring in something from YouTube, you can load in a file from a different library and make it act and be as if it's part of this library. So we can bring in this file, it creates our link, and if you want to make that a tile view, so it's a little globe, so we have a link icon, but notice it brings in their thumbnails and everything, so it gives you more robust experience to make it look as if it's part of this library, even though it's not. Other thing that you can do is that's vastly different that I definitely wanted to touch on is, I don't know about you, but one thing I do 20,000 times a day is that I always want to get a link of a file located in SharePoint, because I want to either put it in a technical, like a training document, I'm emailing it to somebody, you know, different things like that. So normally, like in 2010 and older 2013, what you could do is just right click and you would say copy shortcut, but that's no longer available. So what you could do is, you know, in 2013, you could click the three dots and you would get this hover panel where it would show you the URL. That's now gone as well. And so what you can do is get a link. So you say, okay, well, I want to get a link. Well, you get this whole new box. And basically what this is doing is this is bringing over some functionality from the consumer OneDrive where you could create specific links where you give somebody a URL and they could either edit or view only. As long as they had that link but maybe didn't have an account, then they could do that. Now it's the same kind of thing, except it does require a Office 365 a tenant account. So if you click view or edit link, this will create a link, but it requires you to have a tenant account. So these two options, view and edit, will not work with external users. If you just want to get a link, you can click restricted link, and this is the actual kind of direct URL to that file that you can do and say copy and get it. I mean, when you use these other two options, you're pretty much doing like item level permissions based on a URL, based on a file. So when you create these, what it actually does is, if we look at the actual URL that it generates, it creates this token it creates a doc ID, and it creates this unique token. So it says, if you notice here, we have this guest access token for authentication, and then we can remove it very easily there. And then of course you can add new people to permissions or do the shared with and stuff like that as well. So also it's much more baked in, just like basically doing permissions. But if you're just looking for that, the URL, you can do it that way. Or here's a little bonus tip shortcut for you, that if you're in IE or if you're in Chrome, I don't know about Firefox, but if you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and then right click on the file, you can get your old classic copy shortcut option here as well. So let me talk about views for a second. So those have been moved over here on the right, as I said. So you click the drop down and any of your views will be listed there. So if you want to create a new view, say you've customized your different view, you've hidden some columns, you know, stuff like that. We've clicked on a drop down and we've changed the sort order, you know, different things like that. So what you can do is we can click Save View, and this will either overwrite the existing view if you just leave it, or if you type a new name, this will make a new view. So you don't, again, you don't have to go into the library settings and modify view and whatnot. We can make this view now default if we want. all from right here without having to go there. And if you notice, View and File Explorer, this is where Explorer View got moved as well. So next to our libraries here, we have this little eye icon right here, and so this is what they call the details pane. So this is kind of what that hover panel that I mentioned, when you click on the three dots and got like the document preview and some other stuff, that all moved to this details pane. So with nothing checked, it just kind of does it on the library. But if we highlight a file, then we get our Office Web Apps document preview, but then we get some other really cool features to be able to modify the document metadata right here within the preview. So we don't have to go into edit properties or in a dialog box or anything to do that. We can change the content type, we can set that, we can set the file name, we can change its title, all right here. We can change the document type, anything like that. So we can resave it to marketing. So just right here from the context of this pane, we didn't have to go into any other dialog box. And if we keep going here, we can see where it gives you some recent activity. So we can see that who was modified, who it was modified by, when they did it. It's kind of like visual versioning, if you will, and then some other information about the sharing permissions of the document and some other basic information, its size and type and path and stuff. So if you ever can't see some information, just always, you can show or hide that details pane, and that works on folders, not just files. If you have nothing selected, then again, it'll just do it for the whole library. So it just says documents and how many and some what's been going on activity within the library. One quick note about content types. So I mentioned, so starting actually just yesterday, so July 15th of 2016, they announced that if you had custom content type ordering, that's now supported. That was previously unsupported, and if it detected your library had that, it would go back to classic mode. So if you do ever need to get to the library settings, obviously we have no ribbon. So where you do that is you click on the gear, and we can just hit library settings from right here, or site settings, but the library settings will get you to all your normal settings that you're used to going to being able to do that. And as I mentioned, they definitely recognize that they're, all the different features and stuff that you had on the ribbon and buttons and options are not here yet. They're working on it. I'm sure they have new releases and whatnot over the next few months, and by the end of the year, a lot more things. So that's all I just kind of wanted just to show you, and wanted to mention a few things about, call out a few differences with the, get a link and a few different things like that. But around the same time, along with the new library UI, there's a couple other things I just wanted just to mention for you to just kind of be aware of and be thinking about. Is first of all, if you are using 365, then if you go to Site Contents, then this got a complete rewrite as well. So notice this is vastly different than what you usually get. So we still have like links to workflow and site settings in the recycle bin. That's all still here. But now we get some activity, some usage activity for like site visits, where we can get a quick link to the report. We can kind of see what's the top trending, or what's the top files that's being hit the most and stuff like that. And then it just gives you some unique tips on various things about just going into different settings of your list or library or whatnot. And then it kind of breaks out your contents in either to lists and libraries here under the contents tab, and then under subsites we can get a list of all of our subsites. So same basic content, but with a little new, but just in a completely different way. So just real quick, one of the last things I wanted to mention was this new functionality dealing with the direct link that we showed earlier. So, and it's this concept that they call durable links. So if I go ahead and say get a link here, and I choose my restricted link, one thing you'll notice now is there's new stuff that's put on the end of this URL. So we have our Excel file, but then we have D equals in this big long GUID. So basically what this does and what this functionality allows you is so that if you email this link around to somebody, and then let's say that you you move this file to a different folder or a different library or whatever, what SharePoint's going to do is whenever someone opens that URL and goes to the old link and goes to this where it used to be, it's going to automatically keep a record of where it used to be and where it is now. So it'll automatically handle the redirection to go from one to the other, which is really cool. So it kind of works like the document ID feature you used to, sort of, but it just puts this big long GUID on the end of the URL and it goes and looks it up where it is and then redirects you automatically, which is really nice. The very last thing I just wanted to mention here is with this new library experience, they allow you to customize this, because beyond this, there's actually taking a lot of this look and feel to the site level. And they're going to come out with a new page authoring experience. And then within all of this new graphical UI, they're going to they have a whole new what they call development framework, the SharePoint framework, that is going to allow you to write code and do all these things. It's going to allow you to fully customize all these experiences that's designed for this new type of interface. So please reach out to us if you have any questions, and let us know if you need any assistance, and thanks for checking out our video.